Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Business Processes in the Cloud, Model, Execute, Scrum. My name is William Wallace and I'll be moderating the webinar this afternoon. First of all, I'm delighted to welcome online our two expert panelists. Andreas Hoffmann from Envisage Systems will be explaining how Envisage uses the cloud app Business Process Modeling with BPMN to efficiently manage client requests and subsequent projects. Hassan Chakmak, Fibersoft Product Owner, is responsible for the development of BPMN solutions at Fibersoft and will be demonstrating the different possibilities that business process modeling with BPMN offers. Before we get started, just a few quick pointers about the webinar format. You can ask questions at any time via the Questions tab on the GoToWebinar toolbar, which you can hopefully see on your screen. I will collect the questions and pose them to both our panelists at the end of the webinar. Also quickly, the webinar session will be recorded and we will make both the recording and the presentation slides available to you after the webinar. We will inform you via email of exactly how you can access this information. Okay, so enough from me, and I'm delighted to hand over to Hassan.
Thank you, Will.
Okay.
Today we want to talk about business process management, and first of all I want to start with a short overview about BPMN itself and what the challenges are and how we can deal with these challenges, especially using a cloud service like Fibersoft Folio Cloud. The European Association of Business Process Management defines BPM as a systemic approach geared to capture, design, execute, document, measure, monitor and control automated as well as non-automated processes in order to meet objectives that are aligned with the business strategy of an organization. So this means we want more quality in our processes, more security, more flexibility, more outcome, but with less costs, of course. And to achieve these goals, we do business process management. So, but what are the challenges while doing this? Both large and smaller organizations are confronted with the challenge of adapting their business processes to increasingly rapidly changing conditions and environmental factors. So this requires a high degree of flexibility and agility. However, the full potential of business process management for the increase of efficiency and improvement of quality requires a digitization of processes. Traditional software development projects for this purpose often bring the disadvantage that they involve companies losing flexibility and agility. Since core processes are often involved in these sorts of projects, this can lead to significant competitive disadvantages for the organization. A further aggravating factor for small and medium enterprises is that such projects, as well as workflow solutions, are practically unaffordable due to the high acquisition, operation, and maintenance costs. So we took the challenge and introduced a cloud-based solution for the digitization of business processes, which can be used based on a monthly subscription fee and is therefore also affordable for small and medium enterprises. The solution enables the modeling of individual business processes in a graphical process editor based on the internationally recognized BPMN 2.0 standard. The processes are modeled on the basis of predefined process modules and can then be directly executed digitally. The BPMN standard doesn't just define the graphical notation of the process models, but also the meta model and the file format that the model should be saved in. This makes our customers independent of individual tool manufacturers and allows them to enjoy the advantages of a standardized graphical notation, for example, the general availability of know-how, since it is learned at universities, for example. Now I want to switch to my demo environment and show you this BPMN process editor in action. I'm now logged in as Anita Eichinger in Microsoft Folio Cloud and switching to this team room which I've prepared. Using the Create a New Object button, I can create a new process diagram for a simple approval process, for example. Additional to process diagrams, there are other diagram types available which are also defined by the BPMN 2.0 standard. I select BPMN process diagram and let's enter the name simple approval process. Next, I can commit this transaction, and using the open button, the new process diagram, the empty process diagram, is opened in the BPMN process editor, which is fully integrated in the web client. So the users don't need to install additional software on their clients to use this editor. It's fully integrated in the web browser and can be used. The elements from the left side can easily be dragged and dropped into the diagram. And to demonstrate this, I will start with the pool. I can drag and drop this pool into my diagram. And such a pool represents an workflow participant, like an organization. So I can call this organization Arno Real Estate. And such a pool can be divided into lanes. Lanes are areas of responsibility, such as like roles in Microsoft Folio, for example. So I add a role to my process diagram. So I have two roles in my process diagram and call them staff member is the first role. It's the name of the first lane, and the second lane I call it the manager because it's about a simple approval process. Now the process always starts with a start event. This represents the starting point of a process, and after adding this start event by drag and drop into the process diagram, I can also use the arrow keys, for example, to move the element in my process diagram. So I can close this left area, and now I can use the quick menu to add further elements to my process diagram. For example, a task. So by clicking on task, I can add a new task, and the first task is edit document, for example. And so I can add more tasks. So the second task is to approve the document. Approve document. And this second task has to be done by the manager. That's why I drag and drop this task into the lane of the manager. After the approval task, I add a gateway to my process diagram, which represents a decision how the process flow will go. In this case, I wanted to distinguish between the situation if the manager has approved the document or he declined. So if he approved, the document can be published. And after the document is published, the process ends. So I can make my lane a little bit bigger to add these new elements in it. This is the case approved. If the manager has approved the document. But if he has declined, so the task edit document has to be repeated. So this can be modeled with this backlink to this first task edit document. Now the first version of my process diagram is modeled using the modeling tool, the process editor in the web client. I can use this process modeling tool to create process models in a very efficient way using the arrow keys, using the keyboard, and using the mouse, for example, for drag and drop. So the modeling of business processes is the first step before optimizing them and digitizing them. Andy, can you tell us a little bit about Envisage and how you are using Folio Cloud and BPM and our BPM solution in your organization?
I think you're still on mute, Andy. If you could unmute yourself, we can't hear anything at the moment. Hello, Andy? Are you still there?
Oh, sorry. All right. Well, and Hassan, let me introduce Envisage Information Systems real quick. We are a software services provider to the financial services industry, and particularly to the retirement branch of the financial services industry in the United States, which means we provide software solutions that make it easier for clients and customers of financial services providers in the States to use their products. For instance, retirees or any participant of a retirement plan wants to contribute money into his retirement plan, and our software ensures that the right amount is calculated that can be contributed and that these contributions are actually valid and within the legislative boundaries and so on. So our software solutions all circle around the retirement industry. We have a number of software solutions out there with the RSA, the so-called Retirement Services Application, being built on top of Fabulous Folio, of the enterprise version of Fabulous Folio. So we have various solutions out there based on Fabulous Folio, where we then build vertical solutions for the retirement industry on top of that. The company itself has been founded in 1995 with just 10 members, and we have experienced exponential growth and now have more than 200 team members and 3 offices in central New York. And here you can also see a little timeline of our different products when they have been introduced. You can see Folio has been a valuable platform.
Sorry to interrupt, Andy. We can't see your screen at the moment. I'm not sure if you wanted to share your slides with us.
Definitely. Well, can you see the screen now? I mean, I kind of like tried to show it, but I'm not sure if anything is being received.
I can't see anything yet. You've got the control to share your screen, but at the moment...
I clicked on that button to show my screen, so supposedly it should be sharing.
Maybe
Yet?
Not yet. It says it's waiting to view your screen. Maybe you could try deselecting it and selecting it again to see if that triggers it.
Sure. Seems we're having some technical difficulties. So it says on air, showing screen. Anything being received?
No, not yet.
Maybe you want to take control and give it back to me.
Yeah.
One more time. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's back to you.
Here
we go.
Work now.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Okay, I apologize for the... Okay.
Going wrong. All right, so I was pretty much just explaining that we have a number of products out there serving the financial services industry, and we also have software built on top of Fabulosoft Folio, the enterprise version of Fabulosoft Folio. But we're also using that in an SaaS environment, which means that we are hosting some solutions for our clients. Here's a number of our main clients that we have out there in the States, all of them financial services providers and banks. We have been, as I mentioned before, one of the fastest growing companies in the IT industry, and actually the fastest growing company in the financial services sector, or related to the financial services sector in New York State, and that includes New York City. We are the largest provider of 403B remitter solutions, which is pretty much an important piece to the retirement industry for validating and validating contributions and confirming that they are within all the legal boundaries and so on. We have 100% referenceable clients in 2012, which means that all of our clients would and will recommend us. So we're trying to put customer satisfaction above all, and it seems it has been working out for us. And we made it into the Inc. 500 list in 2012, which is also another fact that we're very proud of. Recently, we've been trying to introduce Scrum and pretty much the Agile methodology into our company. We've always been working in so-called like an Agile way, but not according to the methodology itself, if you want so. So we've been kind of like trying to be very responsive and flexible and agile in a common sense, but now we finally made the switch to Scrum as our agile methodology from more like a waterfall-based approach. And Fabulosoft Folio has been chosen to be our platform of choice, actually Fabulosoft Folio Cloud. So we are doing all of our sprinting in Folio Cloud and using the Scrum app, the out-of-the-box Scrum app, which comes for free with Fabulosoft Folio Cloud, as our kind of like micro-level Scrum management software, if you want so. And then on top of that, having to deal with large organizations, we need additional layers. So the Scrum app itself is being used at the micro level, but then on top of that, there's different processes and different workflows that are going on a, if you want so, platform level for kind of like receiving requirements from our customers, breaking them down, and then having them drizzle down into various hierarchy levels of teams. We are using the BPMN tool to model these processes. And I'd like to show one example of a process that we have been designing recently. So this is just a snapshot of a small piece of a bigger process, of a larger process that helps us to receive requirements from our clients, break them down into smaller requirements, and then send them into the right feature teams, if you want so. So we have up to 12 feature teams that are all based on Scrum. And on top of that, we have platform teams that consolidate requirements, and on top of that, there's another layer. So what I'm showing now is just a subsection of the bigger process, where you can see that we have a platform owner that is feeding requirements into a Scrum team that is managed by the product owner. Then we have a business analyst, a quality analyst, and a technical analyst. The first thing that starts the process is the platform owner sends a message in, or an email if you want so, in a very simple way, to the product owner requesting a new feature. The product owner receives that message and starts with the evaluation of that feature. He can then decide, okay, is this already kind of like a feature that fits into my backlog, or is this something that doesn't really concern me or that I cannot add to my backlog right now? So he has the possibility to reject that and send a message back to the platform owner notifying him, okay, this is something I cannot accept as a requirement right now because of X, Y, Z. If the evaluation turns out that, okay, this requirement can be accepted into the backlog, it drizzles down to the next level, which is the BA, the business analyst, can then define or can then look at the functional requirements assessment. He can then decide, okay, that this requirement cannot be accepted right now from his standpoint. And again, the platform owner has to be notified of that. And another iteration of the process will be triggered eventually. He can also decide, okay, this is too big as it is, and we have to split the requirement into multiple stories. So he can go ahead and split it into multiple smaller stories, which are then fed back to the product owner, so the product owner can evaluate them again and start another start another iteration of the process. If everything is in good order, we're going to go ahead and the BA will start defining the acceptance criteria for the story. Once the acceptance criteria have been fully formalized, the BA will feed them down to the quality analyst and the technical analyst, and both of them can in parallel evaluate the acceptance criteria as well and check if they are good with it or if they have any concerns regarding these acceptance criteria. If both of them determine that, okay, the acceptance criteria as written up by the BA are in good order and we think that we can deliver on that story and meet these acceptance criteria, then the process goes back all the way up here. I get the sign-off on the acceptance criteria and notify the platform owner that we're good to go with this particular story. The process ends and we see that the sign-off is complete. If, however, any of these two who get the review activity in parallel at the same time, if any one of these determines that, okay, they are not good, they have some concerns with these acceptance criteria, they're going to go ahead and reject the acceptance, which triggers a cancel event, so the review activity of the other stakeholder is canceled, because it wouldn't make sense, if the QA analyst would cancel the review and say, okay, I can sign off on that. It wouldn't make sense to still wait for the TA to sign off on it. So what happens is, if QA says, okay, no, we can't do it, that task is automatically removed from the TA and vice versa, depending on who is faster with rejecting that requirement. Okay, if I get a rejection, I have another iteration in the process. It is being fed back to the BA, and the BA can rework that whole assessment and come up with new acceptance criteria and trigger a new cycle in this process. So this is our first shot at that particular sub-process, if you want so, being part of the bigger picture where the client sends in the requirement and then it is being split up and so on. And what we're trying to do is now, step by step, we want to formalize these processes in BPMN and turn them into executable processes with Folio Cloud. And I think, Hassan, this is a perfect time for you to take control again and explain what you can do in terms of making processes executable in Folio Cloud.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, that's a perfect time to have a look how we can make business processes executable in our Microsoft Folio Cloud. With our solution, we provide the direct execution of such BPMN process diagrams in our workflow engine.
Sorry, Hassan, we seem to be having problems with the screen sharing again. I'm just going to take control back and try and give it to you again and see if that solves the problem again. Sorry about this. Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
No, not yet. We're still waiting to view your screen.
Okay. So give me the control again.
Yep.
Okay.
Now we're good to go. Sorry.
Everything okay?
Yep, everything good now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's switch back to my presentation again. Yes, with our solution, as I said, we provided the direct execution of BPMN processes in our workflow engine, which are modeled in the graphical BPMN process editor, as Andy has shown it, and as I has shown it in the first part of my presentation. You just have to add some additional information to the models, and the processes can be digitized and can be executed digitally in the workflow engine. So now I want to demonstrate how this can work using an example of an incoming invoice process. So now I switch back to my Folio Cloud account, and I'm here logged in as Anita Eichinger in Folio Cloud again, and I switch to this incoming invoice team room, which I already have prepared for this webinar. In this team room, I have prepared a so-called user form, and this user form defines some fields which will be used to capture the metadata for invoices. So what are the metadata which we want to capture? These are the creditor, this is just a text field, the invoice date as a date value, and the invoice amount, which is a currency value. And such user forms can be used by end users to easily add user-defined fields or additional fields to existing documents. By defining such a user form, I have created a category which has the name invoice, and this category can be defined for documents, and by doing this we can add such additional fields to existing documents. What I also have prepared is the BPMN process diagram. Let's have a look to the properties of this diagram. It is already designed. On the process execution tab, we see that this process diagram, that this process is especially usable for invoices. So this assignment of the category invoice to my process diagram will help me while defining conditions in my process diagram which will be executable. But we will see this a little bit later. So I will just open my process diagram in the process editor again, and we see that the process is already modeled. I will make it a little bit smaller to see the whole process. So in our case, in this process, the process is already modeled, and we have two participants. The first participant is the creditor, and the second participant is the company Arna Real Estate as the invoice receiver. And the process of the invoice receiver is the process which is modeled in detail.
Hassan, sorry to interrupt again.
Part of the process.
We can only see your PowerPoint slides still.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether this...
Good. Do it again, or?
Yep.
Just take the controller and give it to me back.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what's causing these technical problems today. Okay, now I can see Folio Cloud.
So you also couldn't see the form designer?
Mm-hmm. I can see the editor, yeah.
But the first part of the demonstration where I tried to explain how the user form designer is working, you couldn't see this?
No, we saw the PowerPoint slides.
Okay, so I just close the process diagram again and just reopen this user form, just to give you the possibility that you can see it. This is the user form, and this is the user form where end users can define additional metadata, additional fields for existing documents. In this case, I have prepared this user form for invoices to capture some metadata. In our case, in our example, is this the creditor, the invoice date, and the invoice amount. And users can easily add such fields by drag and drop into this user form. And by defining this user form, I also define a category which also has the name invoice, and by putting the category to an existing document, I can extend my document with these additional fields. So this was the first part, and I also have shown the properties of my process diagram, where we can see that this process diagram on the process execution tab that this process diagram is especially usable for invoices, and this assignment will help us while defining conditions in our BPMN process diagram, and this also means that this incoming invoice process is only executable on documents with this category invoice. So this was the first part. Then I just reopen my process diagram again. We'll see that the process is already modeled, and in our case we have two organizations, two process participants in this process. The first participant is the creditor, who sends the second participant, who is the Anna Real Estate Company, as the invoice receiver, and the creditor sends the Anna Real Estate Company an invoice. This is an email, for example, or just a mail. Then the first task, which has to be done in our case from the incoming invoice capture role, is to register this invoice. The invoice is imported, is captured, the metadata are added to the invoice, and then the approval process can start. The second part of the process is that the staff member has to approve this invoice, and if the invoice amount is higher than 10,000 euros, then there is an additional approval step required by the management. This is a second role, which also defines. This is a second role who also has to approve the invoice. And after the has been approved, concerning if the fact if it has been approved or it has been declined, we can decide to post the invoice or to claim the invoice. If we claim the invoice, we have to send a claim to the creditor. So this is the process just modeled in the process diagram editor. But to make the process executable, we have to pair these activities from the process diagram with so-called activity definitions of Fabersoft Folio Cloud, which can be understood from the workflow engine in Folio Cloud. This can be done by selecting an activity and just opening the properties of such an activity. We see there an edit button beside Folio Cloud, and we can select this edit button, and here we can choose an activity definition from a list. There are a lot of activity definitions available for my purpose, and in my case I have chosen the activity definition annotate and edit. So this is the activity part. What has to be done? This is the part which answers the question what has to be done. The second part is who has to do this activity, and this is modeled here in this part, where I can define a workflow participant which can be understood from the workflow engine. In our case, I decided to choose an abstract participant, the process initiator. You can select apply and take these modifications. The other, I have already defined the activity definition and the process participant for the other activities in my process diagram. So now I want to release my process diagram for execution, and before doing this I want to use an integrated validator to see if my process diagram is actually executable in a workflow engine. This can be done using this button in the toolbar, check the executability. Click this button and see that there are errors in my process diagram, and by moving the mouse over the red cross I can see the detailed error message behind this error. So in this case I missed to define a condition in this gateway. So there is a comment that this flow has to be executed if the amount is more than 10,000 euros, but the workflow engine cannot evaluate this comment. I need a comment which can be evaluated by the workflow engine. So I can define a condition here by opening the properties of this sequence flow, and here I can define a condition expression. I can define a Folio expression if I know that, but I can also use an editor which helps me to define such conditions in an easy way. I click the Open Editor button. Now a dialog is open where I already have my fields which I have defined before in my user form available here, and I just can use this editor to define my condition. I say this condition is true if the amount is more than 10,000 euros. Select the currency. So this user form, this dialog can be displayed because we have defined the category invoice as a usable as a category for the process diagram in the property usable for. Therefore, I can use this condition editor with the fields that I need. So I just click take, and so I have defined my condition. And now I rerun the validator and see that there are no errors left. By clicking next, I can save my changes. And now I want to execute this process, and before doing this, I have to release this process for execution. We don't want to execute each process diagram in the system. We have a subset of process diagrams which are released for execution, and this release process looks like this. I open the context menu of such a BPMN process diagram and choose release process for execution. And now I can choose for whom I want to release this process, who should be able to execute such processes for incoming invoices. And now I will choose, I will release this process only for me, but I could also choose my organization or an organizational unit within my organization. This next, the process is now released for execution, and the symbol has changed. Now I'll switch into this folder which I have prepared with 2 invoices. These invoices are simple PDF documents now. I just open the properties of this invoice and see it's just a file. It's only a PDF document. But now I will define a category for this PDF document. And by doing that, I can define that these PDF documents are no longer just simple PDF documents, but they are invoices. I've assigned the category to my PDF document. If I now open the properties of this PDF document, I see, okay, on this PDF document, I can add some additional metadata like the creditor, the invoice date, or the invoice amount. And now I want to start the approval process with such an invoice. I just use the menu point Start New Process, and in the list of the predefined BPMN processes, I can see the process which I have released before, the incoming invoice process. I click on it, and before the process starts, the process is opened in a read-only mode in the process editor. I can see which process I am actually starting, and by clicking on Start Process, the process starts. Now I have to switch to my work list where all my activities are listed. I switch to my work list, and the first activity in my process is to register the invoice. I can register my invoice by opening the PDF content and defining the metadata, but I can also use this annotate and edit task, which opens the metadata of the invoice and the content in 2 separate windows, so I can easily capture the metadata. So in this case, we have a creditor, the pair incorporation, the invoice date, and the amount is 7,440 euros. By clicking next, the metadata are saved and both screens are closed. So the first task, capturing the invoice with the metadata, is finished, and by clicking on the finished task, the invoice will be moved from my work list to the work list of the approvers. So I just click finished. Now I have to switch roles, and I'm now I switch my browser, and I'm now logged in as Kathy Howard, and I'm refreshing my work list. And now as Kathy Howard, I have a new activity in my work list, approve invoice. I can open this activity. I see the PDF content of the invoice, and see, okay, everything is okay, and approve this invoice. Just click approve. I can add a remark. Everything okay, and by clicking next, the task of approving this invoice is finished, and due to the fact that the amount is not higher than 10,000 euros, we don't need the approval of the manager. So in this case, the accounting department should be able to post the invoice. Therefore, I now switch roles again. Now I'm logged in as Michaela Schopf, and refresh, and she also refreshes her work list, and now she has the post invoice activity in her work list. She can also open the properties, open this task in her work list. She sees, okay, this is my invoice which I have to post, and after she has finished her work, she can select the activity finished and finish this her task in the process, and also complete the process. So this was a very simple example of how business processes like an incoming invoice process can be modeled and digitized without the need of a software development project. And this allows our customers the advantage of digitizing the advantage of digitization to be fully exploited, while simultaneously guaranteeing the highest possible degree of flexibility and agility for your organizations. Will?
Okay, thank you, Hassan. We're a bit tight on time, but hopefully there's still time to answer a few of the questions that we've got coming in. Andy, I'll also put you on to live as well, so you can answer the questions that come up. The first one's quite easy, Hassan, I think. The question is it possible to test the BPMN cloud app?
Yes, of course. Okay, you can. If you don't need a special edition to test the app, you can just go to the App Store and test the app for 3 months for free.
Okay, so that's via the Cloud App Store, which is www.cloudappstore.com, and there you can easily find the Cloud App BPMN, and there's a button to activate a free test for 3 months. The next question is, can the modeled process diagrams be easily exported from Folio Cloud?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned in the first part of the presentation, we are fully based on the BPMN 2.0 standard, and this standard not only defines the graphical notation, it also defines the file format, how the process diagrams has to be saved, and we are fully supporting this standard, and therefore you can easily export these process diagrams from Folio Cloud and edit your process diagrams with another tool. It is also possible to start with another tool, which is the better way, I think. You can start with another tool and import the diagrams into Folio Cloud and stay with Folio Cloud.
Okay, perfect.
So you can import and export process diagrams, and we are fully standard conform.
Okay, perfect. Andy, I'm not sure if you're still on the line. There's one question for Envisage, which
I'm
is...
still there, yeah.
Okay, perfect. What are Envisage's plans for further implementation of BPMN and the workflow function?
Actually, we want to use Folio Cloud and the BPMN workflow engine of Folio Cloud for digitizing all of our processes, in-house and also external collaboration processes with our partners if they choose to do so with us. Because Folio Cloud is the ideal platform for allowing us to, like open our interfaces or some of our interfaces so we can collaborate freely with any external stakeholder, and if they choose to. And it's very easy to bring them on board and just embed them in as a stakeholder in our processes. If they choose not to do so, then we can still work with manual tasks, kind of like embed them in our processes, but then use manual tasks and kind of like semi-automated steps to still use Folio Cloud for our internal processes and then incorporate the stakeholder feedback or the external client's feedback into our processes. So we are well on the way, kind of like moving fully onto Folio Cloud as our process and workflow engine for all of our internal processes. Scrum is just the first step, and there will be contract management workflows following, any HR workflows, things like that. So there's tons of potential application areas that we're all evaluating now, and we only just started with Agile and with Scrum, and that worked out pretty well. And together with Fabersoft, we're now growing and maturing our processes. As Fabersoft is adding new features, we're trying to kind of like, reap the benefits right away and move forward quickly. I hope that answers.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, Andy.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
The meeting is having a bad day.
No problem. Okay, so if there are no further questions, then it just leaves me to thank our attendees for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Also, thank you to both of our panelists, to Andy and to Hassan, for taking the time to share their thoughts with us. Just a reminder that the recording will be made available online during the next coming days, and we will let you know by email of how you can get hold of the recording and the presentation slides. So, just leaves me to wish you a good evening, or for those of you that are joining us from the US, enjoy the rest of your day. And until the next webinar, goodbye.